Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Guitarist Ace Frehley, one of the people who started the rock band Kiss, has died. He was 74 years old. Ace Frehley, the famous Spaceman from Kiss, has died at age 74. But what surprised fans even more than his death was what Paul Stanley and Simmons said after, and it was those words that changed how the world looked at Kiss. Why did the two people who once kicked Ace off the stage now call him someone they could never replace? In this video, you will hear every surprising thing they said, every event that led to this big moment, and every relationship behind the bright lights. On October 16, 2025, Ace died at Morristown Medical Center in New Jersey at age 74. His family said he died from problems caused by a bad head injury after he fell in a recording studio near his house. His death ended a journey of over 50 years in music and opened the final chapter for one of the most famous guitarists in rock history. I leave my satisfaction. According to doctor reports, the accident happened on the evening of September 25th. Ace was in his private recording studio when he slipped and fell, hitting his head on a recording machine. He was rushed to the emergency room with bleeding inside his head and fell into a coma. Doctors said he had really bad bleeding in his brain and needed emergency surgery to help with the pressure. After the surgery, Ace woke up for a short time, but quickly fell back into a coma because the problems kept spreading. His family, including his ex-wife Jeanette Trerotola and daughter Monique, got to the hospital right away. For 3 weeks, they took turns staying next to his bed, hoping he would get better. Medical sources said Ace was put on a breathing machine and kept alive with life support machines. But even with all the care, his brain wasn't responding better. By October 10th, the main doctor said the chance of him getting better was almost zero. Ace had been in good shape physically, but he had dealt with health problems before because of alcohol and drugs. Car accidents, drug overdoses, all of it, right? And then there were the women. Yeah. But in recent years, he had been living a healthier life and performing regularly. Before his fall, Ace had just finished his last show in early September, ending the tour for his album 10,000 Volts. People on his team said he was happy, working hard and talking about plans to record 2 new songs. Nobody expected that just a few weeks later, he would be in the hospital. On October 4th, his management team officially said they were cancelling all the rest of his tour. In a message posted online, Ace's representative said he needed long-term rest like the doctor told him to. At the same time, fake rumors about his health started spreading, forcing the family to ask people to respect their privacy. The final message before he died said Ace is fighting hard, is being taken care of well, and always has love from his family. After almost 3 weeks in the hospital, all the medical work didn't help him get better. On October 15th, the doctor told the family to think about taking him off the breathing machine. After a private meeting, they made the decision the next morning. At 8:17 a.m. on October 16th, Ace stopped breathing. The official report said he died from brain bleeding problems caused by the head injury. The family put out a statement the same day saying, "We are devastated and heartbroken." In his final moments, he was surrounded by love, prayers, and kind words. We treasure all the beautiful memories and kindness he shared with everyone. His passing is a loss bigger than words can describe. One detail that many people talked about is Ace's last conversation on an interview show earlier this year. When asked about his health, he laughed and said that someone who tells the future had told him he would live to be 100. After his death, those words were seen as a sign of hope, showing what he was really like: tough, funny, and fearless. From a work perspective, Ace still had many things he wanted to finish. He once talked about putting out his next album in 2026 and plans to work with 2 young artists he had been teaching. The rough recordings for that project are still saved on his personal computer. His representative said they are working to put it out the way he wanted, but haven't said exactly when. Ace's death has made many people realize that the era of Kiss, a band once thought to last forever, has officially ended. Ace was the first member of the original group to pass away. For 50 years, he was the symbol of making up music on the spot, full of personality and full of adventure. His end means that a part of the group's history has also ended. When Ace's death was confirmed, Paul and Gene were among the first to put out official statements. This time, they talked about him in a completely different way than they had in years. Silence and statements. Paul called Ace a main part of the first chapter of the group, irreplaceable and always present in Kiss history. This was the first time Paul had used the word irreplaceable for Ace in an official statement. Before, in many interviews, he had said that Kiss is an idea bigger than any one person. The change in how he talked was a clear shift, coming after Ace had left the music world for good. Gene chose simpler, but just as strong words. No one could have done what Ace did. We never said otherwise, and there's no one left to say it directly. The statement appeared in a short recording after a private memorial service without the press, but was shared again by the band's media team. Gene's attitude was calmer, but what he said was totally clear. The two did not hold a press conference, did not go on TV to share their feelings, but what they said alone was enough to end the way they had kept their distance from Ace after 2002. For many years, Ace was no longer talked about on tour, not invited to play with the band, and his image was often replaced by new members. After Ace's death, that changed. The joint statement started with the first line, "We are completely devastated by Ace's passing." The second line said, "He was an irreplaceable rock warrior in the early years when the band was formed." This was saying his importance without any conditions, without talking about why they separated, without talking about fights or explaining past choices. They chose to talk about Ace's role directly, even if it meant rethinking how they had worked with him. There was no public memorial, but Paul and Gene's statements were shared on all Kiss platforms. The group's official social media accounts changed their profile pictures to Ace in his 1977 Spaceman costume. It was the first time since 2002 that the image had been brought back without Tommy, Ace's replacement for many years. Under the statements, several short memories were shared. One of them was Paul talking about the moment he first saw Ace at a tryout in 1973. "I saw this guy in a leather jacket and shoes that didn't match walk-in. I didn't know who he was, but I was hoping he was the next member." And he was, Ace. There was no mention of past fights or public apologies. But the choice of words, the placing of images, and the timing of their quiet response suggests that Paul and Gene have changed how they want Ace to be seen, from a former member to an important part of the group's legacy. The return of Ace to the center of Kiss's media is seen as a clear move to fix things. Before, Ace's image had barely appeared on re-releases or documentaries owned by the group. After October 16th, all homepage designs, digital album covers, and ticketing websites were black with one message: "Forever Spaceman." Some people who worked on Kiss's technical team confirmed that Paul and Gene asked that all the old footage be updated to include Ace's early performances as a top priority in the video collection. This wasn't announced, but started working within 72 hours of Ace's death. In internal messages sent around among the production team, Paul wrote, "I expect everything related to Ace to be treated with total respect. No cuts, no blurring, no replacements." This came with an extra request. The original live track "Shock Me" with Ace's guitar be put back on digital music platforms. But the break in the relationship between Ace, Paul and Gene did not happen quietly or suddenly. It was clearly formed through each stage, each decision, each public statement, and unlike many other bands, all conflicts within Kiss were always confirmed by the people inside themselves. Fractures in the foundation. Ace joined the band in 1973. During the selection process, he was the one who made the strongest impression, not only because of how he played guitar, but also because of his unique personal style. He was the one who created the Spaceman image, one of the four main characters of Kiss. That image, along with his special guitar sound, quickly became connected with the group. From the very first albums, Ace was a key part of the band's overall sound. Songs like Cold Gin, Shock Me, and Rocket Ride all had his clear mark on them. But behind the scenes, tension started to appear between him and the other two members. Paul and Gene were always the main leaders of the band's activities. Ace felt many times that all the big decisions were made without him having a say. In an interview, he said, "I can't do anything when everything is decided before I walk into the room." This was not just his feeling, but also part of Kiss's history, where the two leaders have always played a central role. In 1978, Kiss released 4 solo albums at the same time, one for each member. Ace's album was the only one to have major commercial success. The hit song New York Groove put him in the spotlight at a time when all the attention had been on Paul and Gene before. This made the relationship even more sensitive. From the late 1970s, Ace started to be left out of many group decisions. He fell into drinking and drug use. In the book Behind the Mask, Paul wrote that Ace was often late and even forgot his parts. Gene once said Ace's judgment was always affected, and that hasn't changed in years. These statements were made official and have never been corrected. In 1982, Ace left Kiss after the album Music from the Elder failed to sell well. Although he said it was for personal reasons, people inside understood that the real reason was Ace feeling left out of how things worked. After that, Kiss kept going with replacement members, but Ace always said, "That's when Kiss lost what made it special in the beginning." After that, Ace went solo with Frehley's Comet. He kept performing and putting out albums, but he often brought up the old fights. In a post on social media, Ace said, "They don't want me to succeed. They do everything they can to make me look like I can't be trusted." These words were not argued against by Paul or Gene. In 1996, Ace came back to Kiss for a reunion tour. It was the first time the group had performed with the original lineup in years. The tour was a record-breaking success, but behind the scenes, the old problems came back. Paul and Gene enforced stricter rules, image control, money sharing, and health checks than ever before. This made Ace feel like he was being watched. In a behind-the-scenes recording, he said, "I'm not a soldier, and I didn't sign a contract to be watched every day." In 2002, after the last tour with all 4 founding members, Ace left the group. The main reason he gave was that he no longer trusted the manager. Meanwhile, Paul said that Ace wasn't committed enough. Gene said that Ace left the tour because he couldn't handle the pressure. From then on, the 3 of them didn't appear on stage together. In the following years, the conflict turned to another direction: ownership of the image and symbol. Paul and Gene kept using the Spaceman character for shows, but let a new member take over. Ace didn't accept this. He once said, "I created the character. They can't put a new face on something that is connected with me." The incident turned their relationship from a personal tension to a legal and trademark conflict. In 2014, Kiss was put into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Ace did not perform with the group. "I don't have to stand next to someone who called me useless to get a title I deserve," he said at a press conference. Paul did not respond to the statement. Gene said, "We respect what he has contributed, but we also have the right to move on." In the years since, Ace has said no to all offers to get back together. He claims the terms are unclear and forceful. When asked about the possibility of sharing the stage with the group one last time, Ace replied, "It's not because I don't want to. It's because I can't accept the way they treat me like an outsider." Paul and Gene have never directly apologized to Ace in any interviews, but in recent statements, both have mentioned missing out on moments that should have been shared. A podcast recording that went viral in early 2024 has Paul saying, "I don't know if it's worth holding on to something that's been unpleasant for so long." This is one of the rare times he doesn't deny the role of personal conflict within the group. For nearly 50 years, Ace has been the one who held things together, but also the one who was left out of the center. The relationship between him and the other 2 was not hidden. It was always there in every sentence, every decision, every refusal to shake hands. And it was these things that made it clear why their separation couldn't be fixed. Underneath it all, there was one thing that never changed. Who laid the foundation for Kiss's identity in the first place? It wasn't about contracts, sales, or positions. It was about the roots where it all began, and that part was none other than Ace. Origins never replaced. Ace was the last person to be picked for the original Kiss lineup. His 1973 tryout brought him into the band not just because of his guitar skills, but because of something no one else had. He was unlike anyone else before him. He didn't copy anyone. He didn't follow a formula. He came in, plugged in the amp, and played like it was his own thing. Paul once remembered that moment. "I looked down from the railing and thought, I wish that person was in the band." It was Ace. Soon after he was chosen, Ace developed the character of Spaceman, the alien with the guitar. This was a big part of the early image of Kiss. Although Paul and Gene often changed the direction of the group, Ace always kept his own style. He was quiet, he didn't get involved in management, but he was the one who helped the band keep its identity in live shows. The recordings that clearly have Ace's fingerprints are often the songs considered different in the Kiss discography. Shock Me, Strange Ways, Hard Times, all of which he wrote and performed himself. They were unlike the rest. They felt raw, unedited, flawed, but real. When he sang, Ace wasn't trying to prove anything. He sang as if music were the only thing in the room. Ace's influence didn't stop with his recordings. Many famous guitarists say he's the reason they started playing. From Mike McCready to Tom Morello to John Five, all of them credit Ace with their roots. Not because of his technique, but because of his free-spirited performance. He didn't need to be in the right place on stage. Didn't need to be on beat. Didn't need to follow a set schedule. Everything happened the way he wanted it to. Paul and Gene always ran Kiss as a long-term project. They focused on management, finances, and image. Ace was the opposite. He didn't plan things, didn't keep a tight schedule, wasn't always on time. This earned him complaints, even being called troublemaker. But while the band became more and more of a commercial machine, Ace remained the last link between music and artistic freedom. When Ace left the band, he didn't take his contract with him. He brought the style, and for more than 20 years, it has been the same on stage or in the studio. His solo records, from Frehley's Comet to 10,000 Volts, were unfashionable. They kept the spirit of a man who had nothing to prove to anyone. Paul and Gene could recreate the spaceman image by hiring someone else to dress like Ace, but they couldn't recreate the sound. They couldn't recreate the spontaneous, unplanned, unscripted feel. That's the difference. For years, the group continued without Ace. They performed, released material, expanded the brand into all sorts of areas. But the early Kiss live recordings, the ones with Ace, are still the most watched. Fans, old and new, go back to those days. Not for the sound, but for the energy that was unmatched. Ace's legacy is not just in the records. It's in the image that has been connected with the youth of many generations. Anyone who picked up a guitar for the first time, because they saw a man in a silver suit standing under purple and blue lights, all have a part of their memory named Ace. Not everyone keeps it, but almost everyone has it. With what has just been mentioned, the story of Ace is not just the journey of an artist leaving the stage, but also the end of a part of Kiss's history that can't be repeated. If you've ever heard an Ace riff and found yourself wanting to pick up a guitar for the first time, or if you've ever watched them reunite and then fall apart, leave a comment below to share your feelings about this special character. Don't forget to like if you found this video valuable. Share it with your former Kiss fans and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the most honest and complete musical stories. Thank you for watching until the end.